Confused about what diet to follow for your hypothyroidism or your Hashimoto's? You're not alone. There's a lot of conflicting advice out there. There are so many diets out there that promise to help, but which ones are actually good for people with autoimmune disease? Hey, I'm Michele Spring. I'm an autoimmune health and life coach and the founder of the Autoimmune Collective. And after reversing my own Hashimoto's symptoms, I have helped hundreds of women feel like themselves again through targeted nutrition and lifestyle. And today I'm breaking down the most popular diets for hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, what works, what doesn't, and what I recommend based on my own journey and those of the hundreds of women that I've helped. So let's dive in. Most diet advice out there is not meant for people with autoimmune disease. It's meant for like the general population of healthy people. So while diets like Whole30 or Keto or veganism may work for some people, they fall short or they backfire for a lot of us with Hashimoto's. To truly heal, we need a diet that's going to heal the gut, calm inflammation, balance blood sugar, help your thyroid hormones convert and actually get to your cells, and stop the autoimmune attack on your thyroid. So let's start with the 3 diets that I recommend most. The first one is gluten-free and dairy-free. This is often the first one that I recommend to clients. Gluten and dairy proteins look amazingly similar to the body as thyroid tissue. So your body can mistakenly attack your thyroid tissue if you eat these. If you want to watch more about that, I have a video all about it right up here. I have found that removing these often leads to less flare-up of symptoms, less brain fog, and less inflammation. And there have been a lot of studies that link autoimmunity with gluten intolerance. So there's a really good chance that if you have active symptoms, there is some sort of gluten intolerance going on, even if it's not necessarily celiac disease. It's really no wonder that a vast majority of my clients, like 90% of them, feel better when they remove gluten from their diet. Now, dairy, on the other hand, can be like more of like a 50-50 kind of thing. Some people do well with it, some people don't. And once you've healed your gut, sometimes you can have dairy even with Hashimoto's with no problem. So my recommendation is to try doing a gluten and dairy-free diet for at least 4 to 6 weeks. And then you can reintroduce dairy and see how that goes. If you have no problems whatsoever, then have it in your diet. There's really no reason to keep it out. And then you can also reintroduce gluten as well, but I do recommend that you keep an eye out for like long-term effects because sometimes it doesn't show up right away. The next dietary format is Paleo. And this one is a great one for blood sugar balance, reduction of inflammation, and gut health. It cuts out most inflammatory foods while remaining satisfying and is a okay format to have over the long term. I know it kind of got a little bit of a bad rap a couple of years ago. It would be all caveman and CrossFit and all that kind of stuff. But really like push that aside and don't really think about that. It's really a great format for being an anti-inflammatory, autoimmune friendly diet. I actually feel my best when I stick as close to paleo as possible. And the third diet is the Autoimmune Protocol or AIP diet. This is my usual go-to for people that have widespread or long-term symptoms. Anyone who has multiple autoimmune diseases or has been suffering for a really long time and wants to see quick results, I tell them to do AIP. It removes all of the common trigger foods that research and studies and anecdotal data have shown to be problematic for autoimmunity. And it also allows your gut a chance to heal because it's not constantly picking at the gut lining or causing any sort of gut issues. It's like putting a Band-Aid over your gut and allowing it to heal instead of constantly triggering it. It also emphasizes eating nutrient-dense foods to replenish the nutrients that your body most likely is lacking right now because of poor gut health and a lack of eating nutrient-dense foods. And it's a temporary elimination and reintroduction protocol. I do not recommend that anyone stays on it for longer than 3 months without reintroducing foods because it's simply really not enough nutrients and everything to be safe long term. But typically 4 to 6 weeks of the elimination format is enough to see some really remarkable results. I really think it is one of the best protocols out there to heal your gut, and it has been backed up by multiple studies. I personally used AIP back in 2014 when I was in the midst of my worst Hashimoto's flare to reverse all of my symptoms, and after only a few weeks, I had felt better than I had in over 15 years. And it's been over a decade since, and I still feel great. Again, it's not forever. You slowly reintroduce foods, but the impact can be life-changing. Now let's talk about some of the other popular diets and where they fall short. The first one is the Whole30. And while it's a great reset and removes a lot of the common trigger foods, it's based off of paleo. It has that weird, like, no chip and no pancake or baked good kind of aspect to it, which I find weird and just develops a weird relationship with food. Plus, it doesn't emphasize or focus on reintroducing foods either. So it's great for awareness and maybe as a first step if you've never done anything like this before and you just kind of want to dip your toe in. And it's great for blood sugar regulation, but I really wouldn't use it for long-term healing. The next is keto. Now, while this is great for blood sugar regulation, if you have type 2 diabetes, maybe something to try to help to reverse that. And it can be great for some neurological conditions like MS. It isn't the greatest one for Hashimoto's. It contains a lot of dairy and sugar alcohols, which often irritate the gut and worsen inflammation. And if you happen to be one of those people that doesn't tolerate dairy, and now it's part of like the main part of your diet, you're constantly throwing all that dairy in there and making the fire that much worse. Can you do keto without dairy? Sure, but it's a lot harder. I've had a lot of clients come to me with worsened gut issues after having done keto. I think it's a lot because the gut bacteria, the beneficial gut bacteria, gets killed off. And so you have to replenish that. And to replenish it, it's a lot harder than if you are starting with a base of a little bit and just need to help nurture that versus like you just completely wiped it out. It doesn't really focus on healing the gut at all. So we still have that autoimmune attack and the thyroid hormone trying to get to the cell conversion issue because it's not really working on those very much at all. The next one is carnivore. This one removes all fiber and vegetables, which your gut kind of need. It lacks variety and nutrients and long-term gut healing. Plus, any of the positive effects that anybody has ever talked about from carnivore have been purely anecdotal. And I even think that the founder may not even believe in it anymore. But really, like, my personal issues are that, like, I've had so many clients coming to me after having tried carnivore because they heard about it on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, and they've tried it. And their gut issues have worsened significantly and their autoimmune issues came back after a short period of time. So while I think it's one of those that can help like initially just make you feel better, it's not one of those long-term formats that's really going to heal your gut or stop the autoimmunity or help the thyroid conversion or any of those things that we really want when we have Hashimoto's. And then the next diets are veganism and vegetarianism. Now, while these can work, you have to do it with a plant-forward, plant-based, like mostly plant kind of version of it, not the I'm going to have Oreos because they're vegan kind of diet, right? Like every diet can be made into a junk food diet, but I find that a lot of people tend to go towards the junk food diet of the veganism one, whereas if like there's a plant version of it, and that can work for some people. But I also see a lot of people wind up with nutrient deficiencies like B12, iron, and zinc, and protein deficiencies because they really aren't paying attention to that while on these diets. And I've also had a lot of clients coming to me after like a decade or so of being on one of these diets with worsened autoimmune symptoms and these nutrient deficiencies. So if you choose to go this route, then I highly recommend that you work with a dietitian who is well-versed in autoimmune disease and all of the effects and factors that go into that. Don't just use somebody that knows about the general population because they may not be able to help you specifically with this and all of the things that, with your thyroid hormone getting to your cells and stopping the autoimmune attack and all of that. Whereas if you work with someone who knows about that, they're going to help you a lot more get all of the nutrients and everything that you need. Okay, so what should you do if you want to try one of these? Well, I recommend starting small. Maybe trying gluten-free and dairy-free at first. And then see how your body responds to that. Do you have less symptoms? Do you have less inflammation? Do you have less bloating? All of these different kind of things. And then if symptoms persist or if you want a bigger reset, then you can try Paleo or AIP. And if you have been suffering for like a long time or you have multiple autoimmune diseases or you really feel like your quality of life is suffering, then I just recommend that you go straight to AIP because it's really going to be the fastest way to reverse all your symptoms and stop the autoimmunity and the inflammation and all of that kind of stuff. Long term, I have found that most people do the best with a modified paleo kind of style diet, depending on what they've reintroduced. This could be all the way up to like almost gluten-free. But it's just one of those, like, you reintroduce foods and get to the widest possible diet that you can. I never recommend that anyone stays on AIP or paleo or gluten-free, dairy-free, or whatever, just because I really want you to test and see what you personally can do. And remember, there's no one size fits all diet, but there is a best place to start. And if you want the step-by-step plan, the recipes, the meal plans, and the support, then you can always join us in the Autoimmune Collective. It's the healing framework and the community and the support and the training and all of that stuff that I wish that I had when I had been going through this. And it has helped hundreds of women feel like themselves again. And I want you to know that you've got this. Your body wants to heal. You just need to give your body the right tools to do it. So thanks for watching. And if it's helped, make sure you share it with somebody else who needs this. And I'll see you next time.